Okay, good morning, everyone. We're going to go ahead and get started. My name is Derek Lambert, coordinator at the West Virginia Department of Education, and I will be serving as the moderator for this session. You are currently in the Career Finder session, which is scheduled from 10 to 11 a.m. Our presenter today is Allison Danielson, who currently serves as the Senior Director for the College Connections with the College Board. In her role, she leads a team to evaluate and manage partnerships for collaborative product development that advances College Board's reach and impact on post-secondary readiness, completion, and success. She also works to develop and deliver career readiness strategies that help underserved populations achieve economic mobility through education. Bachelor's of Arts degree in psychology from George Washington University. She and I work closely together to expand access to Career Finder to all West Virginia students. If you all would like to ask questions, to ask the presenter questions during the session, you can type your question into the Q&A box that you will find on the right side. All right, Allison, go right ahead.
Eric, good morning, everybody. And sorry for the cat cameo. We've got 3 14-week-old kittens, and they are hard to contain. So they may make an appearance again. I would not be surprised about that. Wanted to start today by sharing a little bit about the Career Finder tool. All students in West Virginia, grades 8 through 12, have access to the premium version of this tool. We're very excited to partner with the state. You guys are the first statewide partnership that we have here, and we're really learning a lot in this process and think can provide students with great recommendations for setting career goals and connecting their academic readiness to educational opportunities that are wider than just traditional four-year programs. So I'm going to start with a video here on what the tool does, and then want to walk you through a demo of it, and then would love to answer any questions that you guys have. Let me see. Oh, actually share a different screen.
What's your number up there?
Okay.
Maybe you already know what you love to do. Or maybe you just need some help figuring it out. Maybe you're looking for guidance on how to plan for your future, from choosing a school to picking a major. Since 2001, we've been out on the road collecting guidance and insights from thousands of incredible, inspiring people who build fulfilling careers around their interests. Now, through Career Finder, we're going to show you how you can do it too. Career Finder is a tool to help you get the inspiration and direction to move forward with clarity and confidence. You'll get personalized results based off of the things that you're most interested in, like real-time job and salary information and videos full of guidance and wisdom from real professionals in the field. Career Finder can also pull in your most recent PSAT or SAT scores to help you see where you're on track for certain career paths and where you have room to grow. It's the perfect combination of data and stories to show you what's possible and give you the tools and the confidence to create a plan for your future. So are you ready to see where your interests can lead you? Start exploring today.
Okay, so I'm going to take you into the tool, learn a little bit more about what students experience when they log into Career Finder. As I said, everybody grades 8 through 12 has access to the tool. It is connected to their College Board account, and so there's no need to create a separate username and password. These programs are linked. This tool was built in partnership with Road Trip Nation. You saw a video from them there. They are not-for-profit out of Southern California that has spent the last 15 years crisscrossing the country in a big green RV, interviewing leaders across industries, telling their stories about how did they get to that profession, what obstacles do they overcome, what recommendations do they have for students. Many of these interviews are done by high school age students or early college students. And so the questions that they ask are very relevant to this audience and can be really helpful in guiding students and see what the options really are for their futures. So Road Trip Nation has been a great partner to the College Board. And then we also connected in labor market data from EMSI, and they've now merged with Birding Glass. There's lots of great information about opportunities there. And then we built in research that we performed with the Human Research Organization to connect the SAT suite of assessments over to occupational fit indicators from the ONET federal database. So we're going to start with a few questions on what students actually like. So this is just 3 questions here. We see over 90% of participants actually complete this roadmap and allow us to make some recommendations based on their interest. We're going to skip this survey. We are doing randomized pre and post tests for participants. We just launched a new impact survey, and in a statistically significant sample of students, we see a meaningful impact from CareerFinder on career awareness, goal setting, and confidence for students, regardless of academic achievement level, race, or gender. And so we're really excited to see those results. So we're going to start with what interests you the most. I'm going to pick one here. Education. I think somebody may not be muted. Sorry, I'm hearing a little feedback. I don't know if that's just me. The second interest that I might have is technology. I don't know if it's possible to. Okay, thanks. Sorry, getting a little bit of feedback there. What lights you up at your core is the third question. And then I'm done actually sharing a little bit of my interest. So maybe my interest here is actually helping people. If my interests change, which they will, right? We know the average person's actually gonna have 11 careers over their lifetime, let alone all of the interests that will shift, and especially at this really important pivotal moment in students' lives. So they can go in and change their interest roadmap at any time, and they will get a different set of recommendations. This is just a little bit of guidance about how to utilize the information in the tool and how to navigate it. These are our terms of service. We don't share any student PII. They own that data. And so that's just some information there that students will have the opportunity to consent to. And if they don't, we will still provide them guidance, but the experience may look a little bit different because we want them to upload and connect their SAT suite of assessment information to this actual experience, and that consent allows them to do that. So I've got my interest roadmap here over on the left side, education, technology, helping people. Again, at any point I can edit this. I have information here from my skills, and my skills are derived from my performance on the SAT and PSAT assessment. Every occupation has a foundational quantitative or literacy requirement. And I think that's probably not surprising to us. Even if we think about an occupation like a truck driver, where we typically don't consider maybe an academic connection, you generally need to be able to read in order to understand maps and road signs and things like that. And so there is a foundational literacy requirement for that job, and really for every single occupation. If I want to be a system software developer, I am going to need to be good at math. And so we have done, in partnership with the research organization, we have connected the levels of that readiness over to what we know about students' academic skills as measured by these assessments. And then we've obviously projected what typical growth looks like and give students an indication of where they are now. This is not meant to serve as a signal saying you are ready to go into this career. We certainly couldn't say to somebody that they're ready to be a welder simply because they have the academic requirements in order to do that. There are a bunch of other factors at play. Does that person have good hand-eye coordination? Have they actually been trained as a welder? But this would give somebody some insight into those particular requirements for a program that would train somebody to go into that occupation. And we believe it's really important because students don't have a lot of information about how their skills actually relate to potential careers. And many other tools in the market actually just do self-evaluation of your skills. But if we have this knowledge about students' readiness, we think it's important to show that to them. There's a couple of other quizzes here that will help refine my recommendations and results. You'll see I already started to get some recommendations, and I can see what my plan progress is. I can meet somebody here, Hassan, who is a teacher. I can learn about being a human resource specialist. I can meet other leaders in the fields. There are over 8,000 videos that Road Trip Nation has powering this tool, which is just a great way for people to really see what a job is like. And many of these videos actually have come from West Virginia. There's also lots of other leaders that are highlighted in our Share Your Road archive. And so if there are individuals who you would want to showcase in this tool, make sure your students see a different occupation or a person who you believe could be inspiring. There is a way where we could submit their story and have that be part of this archive and something that a student would actually see. And so there's a lot of dynamic information here. I'll show you what that actually looks like, but did want to share that this archive continues to grow. And so this bank of leaders is evolving and growing and can be really localized and helpful for your students. And then we've got a highlight of newest videos and then some different student perspectives so kids can get the inspiration they need in order to move forward. And we can see here just some recommendations about strengthening the information that we have in order to refine the results list. So I'm going to go ahead and do that now. I'm going to take a quiz here on defining my work style. This is based on the Holland Code assessment that will help students connect their actual personal work preferences over to different occupations. This also allows me to see career clusters and breakdowns there, which can be helpful in course selection and obviously potential CTE concentrations. And so this is a great quiz. This is developed by our partners at MZ and is just 6 questions that students can answer. So I'm going to go through here fairly quickly and see what could be a fit for me. Get a set of recommendations. My work style, enterprising, conventional, and realistic. And then that will feed the set of results that I have here. I've got my recommendations that are actually filtered by different options here. And so initially when we landed on that homepage and the dashboard, everything was driven by interest. And so even though my skills were automatically uploaded, students never have to enter anything about their PSAT or SAT because these programs are seamlessly connected. It's always interest first, unless students specifically select a different filter. And so when I go in and I answer this work style quiz, then I can see that work style is the default. I can then refine by looking at work style and skills. But if I first get in there, we think it's really important that we start with the interest so that we're not telling a student that their math level would inform what career they actually might want to do. It's just meant as a tool to give them context about where they are if they have an interest in a specific position. And we also know that the actual interest will evolve when students understand what options are out there. And so we think it's really important that kids get exposed to as many opportunities as possible that could be a good fit and can add several careers to a plan so that they're not kind of zeroed in on only one potential option available to them. There's one additional filter option here, and that's around expenses. And we've provided this because the number one question that we hear from students about different careers when we talk to them about exploration and planning is they want to understand the salary of a different job. And so that makes sense, right? You want to know what you're going to make, especially if you're thinking about your long-term goals. The problem is at 14, 15, 16, students don't have any idea how to contextualize that information. So if I tell you you're going to make $30,000 a year as a social worker, you might think, fantastic, I am ready to go buy that brand new car. But we know actually that salary is going to get taxed. You're then going to have to pay rent. You're going to have to pay for food. You're going to have to get other kinds of transportation. And while you certainly could buy a car, it's probably not the brand new car the very first year that you start working. And kids don't necessarily understand that. And so we're trying to provide them some quick information that will allow them to understand and evaluate what different salaries actually could mean. This is also a place where if I wanted to, I could change the location that I'm thinking about living. So if I wanted to move to a different part of West Virginia, for example, if I'm in Charleston right now, I can add that to this list. And then all of the information in the tool will update to reflect that. So not just what are the potential cost of livings. This is based on the cost of living indicator, College Board data on the cost of college, other Bureau of Labor Statistics information. But then all of the MZ labor market data in the tool that you'll see in a little bit here will also update to the location of interest. And we know salaries can certainly vary by where you live. So I've got information about education here. If I want to go to a public college, this will just give me some insight into potential student debt that I might be paying off or loans that I might be paying off, again, informed by what we know about the cost of college and the cost of post-secondary education. I've got questions here about the way that I want to live. This is not meant as a comprehensive financial planning tool. Hopefully you guys see that here. But again, just a way to provide some quick information to a student. And so maybe it's really important to me to own a home. I can select that. I can see, as you saw me click through the slider here, what different options actually will cost me per month. Then maybe I think I'm going to be an average spender. Do you really want that car? I'm going to save a little bit. And then I'm just going to cover the basics in terms of my healthcare. If I finish and go to the summary here, I can then get a sense of what my actual annual cost of living in Charleston, West Virginia would be based on the way that I think that I want to live. Looks like I'm going to need about $53,000 a year. And so if I land on a career that has a $30,000 salary, it's probably not going to cover these expenses. Now, we never at any point in this tool say to a student, you should not take that $30,000 a year job. Being a social worker is an amazing position, and we need people to go into those kinds of roles. But students should understand that there is a mismatch there. So if you want to pursue that kind of career, then you may need to think about adjusting the way you plan to live. And so that's what we are aiming to highlight for students. So now that I've got all of my information here, I can actually refine my results by a number of different opportunities. So I've got expenses and interest here. Maybe I want to take the expenses off, take a look at interest and skills. And I can look at market research analyst. That sounds like kind of a cool job. And then I've got here a set of leaders and people I can meet who are doing this job. I can see how it matches me. So this is the first place where you'll see where your PSAT performance connects to this occupation. All 1,000 occupations in ONED are connected to the PSAT and SAT, and so students will get their information based on every single one. And then as they take different and new assessments, the data will update automatically for them. So we pull in the most recent assessment. So you can see here, writing needs improvement. At the end, when students create a plan, you'll see some suggestions for students to work on this area. And I can see how the work style matches. This is a place where my salary doesn't cover my projected expenses. And so you can see it just may not match. We're not saying to a student, you can't add this to a plan. We're just letting them know this actually may not pay enough to cover that luxury car and owning a home. And then I can see what the state data is around the salary. How much is this going to grow? This looks like actually a great bet in terms of a career that's going to grow. And then the most common level of education needed. I can also take a look at nationally, what does the salary look like? So the growth is going to be much, much stronger in West Virginia for this position, even though the salary may be higher other places. What we know, of course, is that then the expenses will also be higher, likely in other places. And so that salary, while it may look better, doesn't necessarily cover more for students. And then I have a lot of other information here about this occupation. I can hear from leaders about what a typical day at work actually looks like and get their advice on it. So lots of different perspectives. I get all the tasks and responsibilities here. And then I've got recommendations for actually how to get started thinking about exploring this career. We'll see in a little while when I'm creating a plan, how to actually pull that into action. And so what students can do. But maybe I want to think about obtaining a compliance certificate. I then click a link here, and it'll take me to a page that gives me a recommendation for getting started. I can see most common level of education here. Many students have a bachelor's degree. Most students in this career have a bachelor's degree, but you also could have an advanced degree. And we see some individuals have some college, but no degree. I can see majors related to this career, educational pathways that different leaders took, top skills in demand, how to get started. So lots of other information here. If I'm in high school, what's a recommendation? So I can see that Lauren here says, find someone who's a design thinker or innovation consultant on LinkedIn and ask for an informational interview. So you can think about those different careers. And then at the bottom here, I can see the actual counties of most growth for this career and most demand, essentially. And I can see them listed in order in West Virginia. And then I've got this link here for top companies hiring near me. And so I've got lots of different options. Facebook's actually top company hiring for this because they must be hiring people who are remote in these positions. But if I see this list of careers and companies, I may be able to reach out to one of them and say, hey, I've got a student who's interested in this. You know, is there an internship you could arrange? You can have a conversation with them to potentially connect and talk to students, like just gives you a sense of what the availability might be. And one thing that we will share through a quarterly report is the top careers that students are selecting of interest. And so you could see based on that, if this marketing occupation is something that most students are interested in, then perhaps that's a place where you might schedule a deeper conversation or provide more resources or information. And there's lots of tools inside Career Finder that can help provide that support and guidance. And then we've got top states hiring for this career. So if I was thinking about moving, maybe California is a good place to do this. So if I scroll back up here, I want everybody to meet the leader. So I can take a look here at Bo. This is an example of the Share Your Road information. And so Bo provided his own personal journey and path. And so anybody on this call today, anybody who you'd like to be part of this archive or recommended group of leaders can submit their story through Share Your Road. I'd be happy to share the information about how to do that as a follow-up. But this will continue to expand the archive of professionals that students can interact with and engage with. And it takes less than a week to have this posted to the site. So if you submit this on a Monday, this will be live on Friday. And so we think that's just a really great benefit of the tool, that it's dynamic and evolving. So I can see Bo's actual interest roadmap: education, nonprofit organizations, Learning Being Challenged seems like a good match for working at Strata, which is a nonprofit education organization. What's his day-to-day like? What were his actions? And then what hurdles did he overcome? So internally, for one reason or another, just felt like I wasn't meant to do big things. And so we can learn more about Bo's journey here. And then what to do about that kind of obstacle or perceived obstacle. So maybe I want to go back here and decide that this is a career that interests me. I can save it. I can also see related careers. So maybe I want to take a look at marketing manager, which is not the same occupation, but certainly similar. And then when I get into marketing manager, this is an occupation where there's a video from Road Trip Nation's archive of videos based on the PBS show that they produce. I can meet Tracy here, who works at AT&T.
I have an education degree and then a math as a minor. And I did teaching for 6 years, but I still wanted to do that, just not in the education system. So I became a corporate trainer, which is how I ended up with AT&T. People wanted teachers that could teach the math or the sciences. And I'm like, okay, that's the easy part. Yeah, sure, I'll do that. My family did not.
So you can see here, we've got different excerpts from these videos. This is only about a minute long. We do see many students find the videos helpful. We're actually doing continued user testing on the tool and the content available, and we get very positive feedback on these kinds of resources. Students want to hear from different people who are actually doing the jobs and learn more about them.
Hey, Allison, we have 2 questions real quick.
Great.
Will this become available for college level students? And the second question is, do the videos that you just showed have captioning?
That's a great question. So the videos do have captions. This entire tool is accessible. And so we're doing regular accessibility auditing of it to make sure that it is appropriate for all different audiences. And so that's definitely an option. And then as far as for college students, right now it's available for middle school students to high school students. And that's the audience that we've really intended this for. I think this is something, just so folks know, there is a version of this that is free that anybody with a College Board account could access. It doesn't have all of these kinds of detailed information or all of the assessments and quizzes to refine, but it does have a good set of content. And so if you have a college student who would be interested in accessing this information, certainly could create a College Board account, go to Big Future and find the Career Finder tool. I'll share at the end exactly how to reach it, but they could definitely do that. It's just not specifically designed for that audience. And so we're not partnering with institutions, universities in order to provide it to them. It's a good question, though. Okay, so if I like marketing manager here, you can see, again, a related career, but it does cover my anticipated expenses. So similar industry, significantly more pay, same level of education. And so obviously the jobs are different, but it's just important to know, again, much a good bet in terms of growth here, almost 30% projected growth over the next 10 years. So if I like this job, I can save it. Then maybe I want to head back and see if there's other recommendations in different fields. Maybe I want to meet Hassan here.
As you reflect on your past, did you notice any clues that kind of stand out to you? Like, maybe I did have teaching in me like this whole time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My whole life. One of the things that I tell my students and I tell my children and I tell everybody, one of the most important things I think we need to do is we need to know who we are. And that's something that we don't do. We don't know who we are. Martin Luther King, he said, don't ask your kids.
So Hassan here is a teacher. So I can go into that occupation by looking at his profile, and his video is actually very, very inspiring. And I think hopefully speaks to many students who don't really know what they want to do. One of the, I think, big concerns we have is that students feel like they have to decide in the moment, in 10th grade, what they're going to do for their entire lives. And then they don't know how to make that decision. And they don't know what their options are. They don't understand that you don't necessarily have to decide your permanent future so young, but you do need to have some idea in order to make the right decision about which educational pathway to pursue. And then we also know students, of course, pursuing non-4-year pathways have more urgency around picking a career to get the right training that allows them to get there to that first step. But this tool hopefully will provide students with just more holistic recommendations, a sense of the world of career opportunities that's continuously shifting and expanding, and information from people who have not necessarily navigated a really linear path, because it's not as clear cut as maybe it had been 50 years ago, where people were thinking about a career that they would want to go into. My job in product strategy did not exist that long ago. And when I was in high school, I certainly didn't think that this was an occupation that I was going to land in. I don't know about everybody else on this call. Maybe you thought, you were going to go into education your entire life, but I think most of us have had an experience where we wondered, what else would we actually want to do? And so we want to encourage students to think about that and give them tools and resources that will allow them to connect to different potential opportunities. I can see here that being a teacher in Charleston doesn't quite cover my expenses, but is close. And then it's got that median salary of almost $50,000. It's not growing, so just a note there. And then I can see information from different leaders. Maybe I want to save this career too. Seems like could be a good fit for me. And I can potentially look at other related occupations. So you could see that students could spend hours really looking through this. We, in our surveys, have found that students spend between 15 and 45 minutes in the tool, and you could do all of these interest quizzes, refine your results, get out with a plan in as little as 15 minutes, which we think is a real advantage of this tool versus some of the other deeper career exploration available, but certainly has enough rich content in there for students to come back into to continue to do exploration. And it is mobile friendly. So kids can access this on their phone if they wanted to. So I've got a few careers that interest me. One note, I think all of the careers that we took a look at right now actually require, well, they don't require, but they recommend strongly a bachelor's degree. There are all occupations listed in ONET in here, and so many that don't require a bachelor's degree. And so I can find them if I knew that I wanted to be a welder, for example. We know that that's really specific career training. Lisa here is just actually quite incredible. She came through our skills road trip.
Can you run us through a typical day for you?
I usually get to work about 6:15 in the morning, get ready. My students come in at 7, pass out the equipment, and we go from there. We have a lot of students. I usually have anywhere from 40 to 60 max that I'm responsible for. I teach 2 courses at the same time. I teach it.
So if I really like Lisa's experience here, then I can add welding to my list, and I could see, going to careers here, that the typical education is high school diploma or equivalent. There is some post-secondary training, but I could add this career also to my list. So then when I get into a plan, I've got lots of options down here based on what's interested me. And so maybe I want to add, I decided actually that I don't want to look into market research analyst as much. And now that I've done more exploration, I really feel like being a teacher or marketing manager or a welder, which is a little bit different, are actually the best fit for me. But then I've got other related recommendations continuously showing for students. So we can always see what related options actually are. Then I can go ahead and select majors. This step is completely optional simply because not every career will require that traditional college education and won't necessarily include a major or area of focus. Post-secondary training that is career focused will, and so we have many of those majors in here, but if students don't want to select a major, it's not a requirement to build a plan. If I select marketing research, marketing here, I can see you want to add teaching, and then welding to my plan. I then get some recommendations for related high school courses. And so this is a set of courses that we have connected to majors or area of focus in post-secondary education. If students do not select majors to then inform this set of recommendations, they're going to get a standardized recommendation list of courses needed for high school graduation. And this list of courses, while we think it's got a lot of specific recommendations, is not tied to an actual course catalog at a school. And so this is just a note, I think, helpful in having conversations with students who are doing course selection or thinking about what class might I want to take, but it doesn't necessarily mean the class is specifically offered at the high school or middle school, or that the student is actually ready for that course. We just want to share with them what training or education could help them continue to explore. And so chemistry and US history are related, computer applications, and then I can see other things like statistics can be helpful, taking algebra, and then maybe I want to take pre-college math here. And then I get into the set of activities that are recommended by the leaders across the archive of professionals. And so I've got a top recommended activity here about how to become a teacher, many pathways. If I click that, I can go to teach.com and it has a video on how to become a great teacher. And so that's something that I could add to my plan so I have it and can go back to it later. I can learn how to build good relationships. Again, lots of links here. There's recommendations for books, activities, different websites. There's recommendations for like what to pursue outside of those kinds of resources. Like maybe you want to have an internship, you want to talk to somebody in a different field. This is a recommendation to volunteer at a research lab. So you can search for your college campus for a lab working on research you're interested in, ask to intern or volunteer. You can interview your teacher if you want to consider being a teacher. And then if you want to be a welder, maybe you want to think about actually teaching that skill. And this is a recommendation for how to teach anything to anyone. And so I've got lots of different activities here that I can add and save for further exploration later. Again, this is our pre and post test survey here. We're not going to take this, but have had lots of students share really great feedback with us that we're continuously monitoring. And this is my plan based on, these are the occupations that I'm most interested in right now. Again, can go back and shift my interests or my other inputs at any time. I can add different careers to a plan. I can save up to 5 careers on a plan, and I can create as many new plans as I want to. This summary is available to be shared with any caring individual. And so I can share a link. I get a unique URL here, and I can actually send that in the chat so students can see it for you guys. Let me see. And then I can download it if I wanted a shareable PDF. So that's another option. And then if I wanted to go more specifically into the different careers that I viewed here, I can see marketing manager is a good fit in a lot of different ways. Why did I pick it? There's a description of marketing manager here. And then I could share just this version of the plan if I wanted to. So if I didn't want my parent to know that I was interested in welding for some reason, I may just want to share out marketing manager. And so we want to put students in control of the information that they share. There's lots of reasons why they want people to know about their interests and pathways, but we also want to be considerate of the fact that this is, a place for them to do this kind of deep exploration. And then if I had an occupation, let's see, actually I'm on track, it looks like, for all of these. We did see an occupation earlier. Sorry, I'm having some internet problems this week for some reason. We did see an occupation earlier where I wasn't on track in writing, and then that would link me out to official SAT practice, which is, as folks know, the best but also free preparation for the PSAT and SAT, and allow students to really improve their academic skills. And so we want to share wherever possible actual resources for kids to improve their readiness, not just information about their possible options. I can also see, as I'm interested in different occupations here, all of my links to recommendations, and then I can find schools offering different majors on Big Future. We just launched a brand new college search experience based on students' feedback and interest. We're super excited about this. It just went into general audience launch last week. And so I can filter by lots of different information here, including major. And so I can add that and find the list of colleges for students. We're continuously building out and improving that tool, but there are ways for kids to do deeper exploration. And because it's all connected as part of the College Board ecosystem, there's also ways for kids on Big Future to create college lists and create plans that they can share there. So that's a real summary and overview of the tool. I can check out my plans. Again, I can continue to go back in. But every student in the state does have access to this information. So we're, again, very excited to partner with West Virginia. As I mentioned, there's a quarterly report that schools will receive that shares number of students who've accessed the report, information about use, information about top careers saved, some information that's just generally helpful. And then every individual student can share their own personal progress and exploration experience with you based on their experience using the tool. There is also an e-module training that is available for any educator. And then we've got a flyer that shares how to access it. It's available at roadtripnation.com/career-finder. You can also go to collegeboard.org and select the Career Finder link in the dropdown under career exploration. And there's lots of different resources available, including that Share Your Road that allows us to continuously expand the group of leaders that are shown. So I'm going to stop talking because I have done a lot of talking so far. So would love to hear if I know we had a couple questions already. Are there any more questions? I would love to hear them.
There are no questions in the Q&A. There was another question. Students accessing the tool. And I think you did cover that, but if you just want to review how they access.
Yep, absolutely. So if you go to roadtripnation.com/career-finder, you're able to land on the landing page that I just showed you that video at when we started the conversation. Students will then be asked to log into their College Board account, consent to link the accounts, which again just gives us permission to share that PSAT and SAT data. One note that I didn't share as I was talking is if students have not yet taken a PSAT or SAT, all of this information and resources can still be available to them. They will just not have detailed information about their academic readiness. But if they then later take a PSAT or SAT and they've saved careers to their plan, they will then get that context populated. So you don't have to wait until students take an assessment to start using this tool. It is available today. So I would encourage you to have students get in there and start that exploration process. You'll just get deeper and richer information once they have completed an assessment.
Thanks. Does anybody else have any questions? If they want to pose them in the chat or the Q&A session, we can questions for.
It seems like everybody's just excited to get into the tool. That's what I'm interpreting, Derek.
Me too.
Okay, well, if there aren't any more questions, there are a set of implementation resources. As I shared, some flyers that you can share with students, information about expanding that archive with Share Your Road. the video that I know Derek has, but I would also be happy to share with anybody if you have questions or want more follow-up information. We're really here to support, and we're eager to get your feedback about how this is working for you and your students. We see this really as the beginning of a longer and deeper partnership to help kids discover all of their opportunities. And so the College Board historically has spent a lot of time thinking about and developing resources for kids who are on a traditional four-year path. We've now moved into a world where we're reaching every student in the state of West Virginia. We have information about their skills and readiness, and we want to make sure they understand the world of options that is out there, not just the ones that require a traditional four-year degree, or if there is an occupation that does require more advanced education, that they understand that early and can begin that planning and preparation process. And so really eager, as I think this is a newer space for us, to get your feedback and get your guidance about how to support students well. Okay, so I think we'll give you guys 20 minutes back. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Allison. We appreciate you being here.
Of course.